You may know ketamine as just a horse tranquilizer, but did you know that it's been designated as a breakthrough therapy for treatment-resistant depression by the FDA? Universally recognized as a safe drug in medicine, ketamine is basically in every doctor's kit. Again, usually as a general anesthetic, but more and more as a treatment for depression. It's a dissociative, not a classic psychedelic, and for that reason, it doesn't have a lot of the same effects that the normal psychedelics have. The commonality that it does share is that it has an instantaneous effect on depression. In fact, it's twice as effective as traditional antidepressants, and when used with intention and responsibility within an integrative model, can lead to incredible healing for those who are working with the substance. There are four main ways that individuals ingest ketamine: intravenously, intramuscularly, with a lozenge, or through a nasal spray. Now, all four of those have slightly different feelings and ways of being. So the IV and IM are most similar. Those last for about 45 minutes to an hour and put you into a deep space of nothingness, where you can then basically have this no mind experience. Whereas with a lozenge is a bit more easygoing, a bit more extended, and usually lasts for about 3 hours. A lot of therapists who work with ketamine love to use lozenges within their practice to help with the psycholytic process of working through trauma. The nasal spray is completely different. Now, Johnson & Johnson has become quite well known for creating this S-ketamine nasal spray, which was granted breakthrough therapy status by the FDA in August 2016 because of its rapid onset help. Now, with a nasal sprays are often used in between really high dose treatments, almost as a maintenance therapy to help with symptoms of depression. Now, unlike traditional pharmaceutical antidepressant medications, which usually take anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks to really kick in and start working, ketamine has an instantaneous effect in anywhere from 4 to 72 hours. So not only has it been hailed as a breakthrough for treatment-resistant depression, but it's also great for suicidal ideation because its effect is instantaneous. While ketamine doesn't work for everyone, its efficacy is about twice that of traditional antidepressants. So ketamine can help with depression in up to 85% of cases, whereas traditional pharmaceuticals only have an efficacy of about 45%. No overview video of ketamine can be complete without mentioning Dr. John C. Lilly, a physician and neuroscientist who popularized both float tanks and the use of ketamine in float tanks. Now, John C. Lilly popularized ketamine not as something to help with treating clinical issues like depression, but to help with the personal growth process, help with the process of ego dissolution, the near-death experience, this ability to transcend our current state, to get and tap into that no-mind potential that ketamine is so useful at. And that's the thing, ketamine is not just this clinical substance. When used outside of clinical, it can also be very helpful at helping us to meditate, at deepening our meditation, at helping to clear out all the detritus of life on the soul and just allow us to come back to a state of presence, a state of being, a state of bliss. Although John Lilly was a huge fan of using ketamine outside of a clinical setting, the downside to that is ketamine has been abused in many cases in rave and recreational circles. Unlike the classic psychedelics like psilocybin mushrooms, ketamine can be addictive. And when used without intention and responsibility, it can lead to the dreaded K-hole. And essentially what a K-hole is that ego dissolution and near-death experience. But it's when it happens in a less than ideal set and setting. Usually what happens is if that someone is at a club and they're looking at white powders, they'll do ketamine, thinking that it's cocaine. And then that will put them into the middle of a K-hole in the middle of a club. So it's really important that if you're doing ketamine, that you've tested your drug beforehand, that you know that it's ketamine, and that if you're going to do it out, because it does induce this really beautiful trance-like state, that you do small amounts, so that it doesn't overwhelm you and lead to the K-hole. Because the K-hole is a beautiful experience, but it must happen within the correct set and setting. Everything is about set and setting with ketamine and all the other classic psychedelics. Also, unlike the classic psychedelics, psilocybin mushrooms, ayahuasca, and even LSD, ketamine can be addictive. In fact, recent research showed that it activated something in the opioid receptor system, which was cause for concern. So again, with this substance, with this medicine, be mindful of how you use ketamine, ensuring that when you do it is with intention and responsibility. Doing ketamine 1 to 2 times a month is likely okay. Doing it any more than that could be risky in terms of its addictive properties and in terms of just its physical issues that it could cause in the body. For example, people notice that if they do ketamine too often, that it can create significant issues with the bladder. So be very mindful of how you're using the substance. When it comes to legality in the Western world, ketamine has been designated a Schedule III narcotic substance by the United States federal government. Most psychedelics, LSD, MDMA, psilocybin are all Schedule I. Cannabis is also Schedule I. Ketamine is Schedule III, which means it can be prescribed by a doctor, usually as an anesthetic. Like many of the other classic psychedelics, ketamine has been misunderstood for a long time. So now that more and more education is becoming available about it, it's important to emphasize that it is, at this point in time, the most accessible medicine for psychedelic healing. Now, as part of this third wave and this psychedelic renaissance, it's critical that you do have the education available so that you can work with these substances in an intentional and responsible way. So if you want to find out even more information about ketamine and find a provider near you or learn how you can use this as a healing tool, check out our website, The Third Wave, and specifically check out our ultimate guide to ketamine, which is linked below. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to stay up to date on the third wave of psychedelics, subscribe to this channel and visit thethirdwave.co, where you'll find plenty of free resources on the intentional and responsible use of psychedelic medicine.